Causeway Bay. I greet the beats of this hectic street. They say drop the cars and use your feet. Archaic trams meet chaotic vans. They cram the roads into sardine cans. Thieves fill the streets. They say buy, just buy, even if your wallet is dry. That's what this store represents. It pays the world's highest rents. So small it looks further like a stall, selling snacks, not much at all. Nothing halts this human stream unless the red man blinks, red beam. To top the race you've got to plot with the market and don't get caught cheating at the top spot. You've got to go rogue and let your soul rot. So buy a lot and you'll help stop all problems, because forget not, to buy is to solve all problems. We buy so we have no problems. Central. This is Central, Hong Kong's heart, the gold mine where dollars start. See how busy it is here? Stay clear of sharp stairs, of steps hurrying near. In this gold mine you'll be fine. If you take hits, learn to cut in line. Everything here is well designed by the British, so refined. Like the opium sliced at the time when the Chinese smoked the grind, till we lost our mind and signed 2 treaties to leave Hong Kong behind. Life happens, life changed fast. As the 2 world wars passed, we had a new boss, we had a blast. Riding ups and downs, we amassed wealth and Western pride at last. Then a new boss came with a new cast. Now we are lost. Our kids call quits. What's next? Who has the foresight, wits? Our rights to don't breach. The people's view don't bleach. Hong Kong lives free by our freedom of speech. West Kowloon. Where I am used to be the sea, which old luxury condos used to see. Now the sea has no place to be. It turns to land, then gold runs free. And what comes next shocks this MC. A cultural district building spree. As if arts can be built on a spending spree. How can culture trickle down to us? We buy culture, but we own a fuss. Arts will rise, the officials claim, but with the odor of money shame. You starve or you sell out at this game. Where is Hong Kong heading in art's name? Polluted air, water, and earth. What we need is a total rebirth. Lose the lies that wrong our worth. Reclaim our flavor, reclaim our turf. I ask you to self-deceive no further. Copy no other, then we will prosper. Hong Konger is Hong Kong's own savior. Big up, MC An, aka Chinaman of LMF. This is the Hong Kong Slam Jam. Translation provided by Thomas Lee. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, ni hao, buenos dias, buenas tardes, heseche, akwaba, welcome. What up, though? This is Convo with Zuri G. I am Peter Johansson OCC, aka Zuri G. And this is the second episode, second session in this podcast. And this features a convo with Brother Philippe. So, Brother Philippe and I meet about half a decade ago. Oh, this is also from the archives. This is an archive convo from a number of months ago, early this past year. So, Brother Philippe and I meet a number of years ago. He, maybe 6-7 years ago, has a YouTube channel called the 100% Mix Show, hailing from Algonquin land, Toronto. And so he does a number of interviews with dozens and dozens of Mélanger brethren of all different types of mixes. He himself is Hapa, and with his Mandarin and Deutsch language skills as well. And so is just very proactive, promotional about the mixed identity. So that's how I find out about him, is through the YouTube channel, and I reach out and we connect. We have convos. I actually do a couple of recordings, convos with him on his YouTube channel. He does a convo on mine. I tell him about the Critical Mixed Race Studies conference going on at that period, and we actually meet in person during that, and that's where we record one of the sessions. And so we keep in contact through the years. He gets involved in some additional things. During that period, he does modeling, he does acting. He has his own entrepreneurial endeavor, Long G Brothers, which seems to be have a revamp recently. So anyways, that's how he and I meet. And I share this background because this is an archive session, so it doesn't follow the same format. And actually, this convo was actually the first episode of the first session of the Café Mélanger joints that I began this past year, and which were initially intended as combos, which is this podcast is kind of a derivative of. To be honest, it's been months since I listened to the combo. I just edited it because it's actually a video, so I've just edited the audio, and I'm sharing this particularly at this moment because of what's being experienced on Earth at this moment, and the certain divisions that are kind of getting increasingly prominent along ethnic, national, linguistic, cultural distinctions, particularly East-West. And so in a previous episode of Café Mélanger, I speak to this is a number of months ago, I speak to the experience of I wouldn't say necessarily rivalry, but like maybe a compare contrast type situation between Creoles, people of mixed African and European ancestry, and Hapas, people who are of mixed European and Asian ancestry, and the distinctions, the competition, and additionally, and I share that consideration with the notion of kumbaya and solidarity, and finding ways of enhancing communication and cooperation accordingly. However, that being said, since that point, there is the emergence of the experience. I'll say the pandemic that's being communicated around the earth, and amidst that, people's fears, people's hysterias, people's ignorance, people's own greed, hatred, and delusion has that tendency of identifying those who look different, who act different or whatever, and then doing the scapegoat blaming of that other. And so we see that in the East-West against each other. People of European ancestry as well as people of African ancestry discriminating against people of Asian ancestry, and then people of Asian ancestry discriminating against both people of European ancestry and people of African ancestry. Even I see things recently in this past week. So with all of this, it's nothing new, but it becomes increasingly exasperated. And so amidst this, it's beneficial to have affirmations of the cohesion, of the peace, of the copaceticness, of the cooperation, the love, the peace, and the kumbaya and all that, amidst the adversity and the hype and everything else. So that's actually, I was already planning to share this as one of the first convos, because Philippe does so much in the Mélanger experience with his channel and the outreach that he does. So that was intended as an initial convo, even though it's an archive and it's a little bit out of sequence in terms of the convos that I start in recent months. So I was already planning to do that, but particularly because of what's being experienced at the moment, it's beneficial to share this with that consideration. Now, ironically, as I recall this conversation, it's actually not the most upbeat and positive of convos, because it actually speaks to the difficulty of doing multiculturalism and mixed ethnicity advocacy. So the convo itself is probably not necessarily the one of the most positive or energetic or whatever of the conversations that Philip and I have through the years. But it's beneficial. It's one of the most recent ones, at least one of the most recent ones that it's recorded. And so it is what it is. Now, it's been a while since I listened to it, since I hear it. But I'm planning to listen to it later this afternoon. I'm just getting some other things done, and then give the summation, give a little wrap up at the end of the joint. So, with that being said, oh, such enthusiasm, such hype, such speaking up. Anyways, that would be self-deprecating sarcasm. But anyways, here it is. Haha, there's somebody. What's going on? Hello?
Hello.
What's
Philippe
going
here.
on,
Can
Philip?
you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Ah. Can you hear me?
I can't hear anything.
My audio was off.
Oh, there we go. Here we go.
How you doing, bro?
Hanging in there. How are
Uh-oh.
you?
What's the about?
What's what?
What's the about?
The ah?
There's a
Oh, yeah.
pause and a sigh.
Oh yeah. No, things are very difficult right now.
Okay, I'll tone down my joviality.
No, it's all right. You can be as jovial as you want.
It's about balance. It's about balance. So, if it's jovial and somebody's not jovial, then it's not actually genuinely jovial, right?
That's true.
So that's
Was anyone else in here earlier?
you're the only person I invited, Joe, because I did it last minute. So, but I wanted to do it.
Okay.
I wanted to do it to get it started. So I've been recording. I've been giving my gist and talking about names and numbers. So I'm planning to upload it and then like just start the momentum. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
And I was explaining before, like this is extremely bootleg, yo, because YouTube requires. First of all, I don't have internet where I'm at, so I have to. I'm working off the mobile phone. And then YouTube, I was planning to do this as a live stream on YouTube, but to do a live stream on the mobile, the channel has to have over 1,000 subscribers. So
Right.
at the moment, I'm precluded from doing that. I can do it on the laptop when there's internet access, but at the moment, that's not available. So the other option is doing the Zoom thing, where it can be up to 100 people and have like the webinar type situation. But Zoom doesn't record on mobile devices, in my experience. So that's one of the challenges. And also, it has a limit of 40 minutes for a meeting with multiple people. So I'm working on the logistics with that. But in the meanwhile, the thought is this: I've been doing this for years, just like you've been doing it for years. And there's a certain commitment, and there's a certain strength and like a safety of like knowing how to like do like mélanger type stuff. So I offer my services as like to facilitate a forum where people can visit, chop it up, or whatever else. And the idea is doing it on a regular basis so that people can just stop in and share ideas, share thoughts, and have like have a certain constancy that it has additional reliability where people can build trust in, and then start having a sense of regularity and a sense of community that builds from that. So that's part of the intentionality. So all these other ideas that I share about and talk about, like part of the reason why I share it is like so people can take off with it. But it's helpful to have like some substance and like a strong foundation. And so that's the intentionality with this forum and with this endeavor. It's just having a space online where we talk about this and where people can go and like and can readily expect it to be there. So that's what I'm doing.
All right. Sounds like you have your hands full.
Oh, most definitely. And I'm double dipping as well because I have another commitment that I'm actually on the clock for that at the moment, but there's nobody visiting at the moment, so I'm cool with that. But yeah, but I'm making myself available Monday through Thursdays at 2 p.m. For a brief amount of time and establishing some regularity. And my plan is to talk with some other people and like have them see this being done with additional amount of legitness, and then encourage other people to also play the role of host as well, even just for half an hour, or once a week or something like that. But get a handful of people doing that, then there's like a block period in the day that people can say, oh yeah, did you check that out today, or whatever else. So, but again, building that sense of community with what we have.
I thought you'd invited some other
My
people in here.
intention was to do so, but when I got the hang-ups with the live stream and the Zoom,
Right.
I was worried about just getting this done. And even now, like, I'm recording it on my laptop, and I'm also seeing how much I can record on my phone. But even then, like, the screen recorder, Zoom doesn't record. I'm working on with the screen recorder that I downloaded the app, but it doesn't record the audio. So it's like every time something comes through, something else happens, and there's like another obstacle. So I'm just doing this to get it done, and building from where we are at the moment. I am planning to invite some additional people though, but I wanted to get this started at the moment.
Okay.
So you're the only person I invited. So aren't you lucky?
All right.
Aren't you lucky?
Special.
Yeah. So
I am so sleepy.
I hear you. What's going on? What's going on your side?
Well, I teach English. You can see behind me
Okay.
some ABCs, fun background.
Okay.
So I teach that in the mornings and the evenings. My mom's been sick, so it's been a lot of just busy stuff. Taking care of my mom.
Okay.
What else? Yeah, it's turning to autumn, so
Yeah.
it's getting colder.
Yeah. We're getting that autumn wind over here too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, seems like a lot and also not a lot going on at the same time. Like, there's a lot of waiting. I booked a commercial,
Okay.
and so I'm waiting for when we're gonna shoot that.
All right.
Yeah.
I saw that short that you did a while ago. I don't know how long ago you did it, but you posted it maybe like a couple months ago, where you were doing that. You were playing the role of a gangster at a high stakes poker game or whatever.
Oh yeah. Did I post that? I don't remember posting that.
How else did I see it, Joe?
Oh, okay. I must have posted it somewhere.
It might have been on your personal account.
Of
Philip.
Facebook?
Philippe. It was. I'm not on Facebook, so it was on YouTube.
Oh yeah. I think I uploaded it to get so I was sending that around to get more representation, like a different agent.
Okay.
So
How long ago did you do that?
it's been like 5 years since that.
Okay.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. 'Cause I think your hair was a little bit shorter at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yep. One of the things I was sharing before you got on was like I said, some names and numbers I was giving. I sent that email out a while ago about the demographics of the Mélanger population globally, in the different populations, and places like Brazil having a population of over 80 million people who identify as being mixed. South Africa has something like I was just giving the list, but first of all, not all the nations report. There were only like 30 or 40 nations out of 200 that report at all. And then out of those that do, to be honest, what I found interesting was that a lot of the Latin countries had the largest populations and the largest percentages. Places like, I said, but yeah, we say of course because we know that. But the thing is, they're actually like identified. They don't just say like, oh no, we're Iberian, or no, we're white, or whatever. They say no, mestizo. So that's like the norm. So for that to be the case, so pervasive in Latin countries, it's like how have we yet to hear that translate into the conversation amongst Latinos in the United States? Because it's usually just identifying as Latino, but that having a certain, and a lot of people talk about that having a certain amount of ambiguity, but less amount of a recognition or conscientiousness of having indigenous ancestry additionally. At least at the forefront. If you talk with many Latinos will say, "Oh yeah, of course, that's in my family background." But in the forefront of the conversation, that tends to be kind of absent in my experience. So when I saw the percentages, I was surprised about that personally. When a couple years ago when I did that, but like Ecuador is 71% with a total population of 10 million, and Belize with 73%, El Salvador with 86%. So the other thing also is where the organizations that like talk about this experience that are in El Salvador or Belize, or additionally, where are the organizations that talk about like being mixed, and where's the representation in the international forum like the United Nations, and additionally where is that conscientiousness in the policy, and additionally that's one consideration. And I look to I consider like the colored community or Klurinji or Bruno community in South Africa. They had there's a population of 3.6 million, and over 8% of the population. So that's something that's well known around the earth. But when I still have difficulty finding like an organization or group that specifically represents colored people in South Africa. And I know they're
Really?
yeah, I know it's there. It's just a matter of finding it. And the thing is, like, I went to a school in South Africa, in Cape Town, called the University of Western Cape. That's pretty much known for being like colored. Now there are people from all different backgrounds that attend it, but historically, it's been a place like where a lot of colored people go to, and so there's that culture. But how much does it readily identify in that manner is uncertain. So again, when connecting internationally, those are some of the considerations.
I did not know you lived in South Africa.
I did a study abroad there. That was when I was in law school, and so I met actually. If you recall, a couple of years ago, I did the interview about like being mixed in spirituality. You and I did an interview, and I did some interviews with other people. And one of the people I interviewed is a sister named Michelle, who I actually met in South Africa, in Cape Town, and she actually moved back here to. She lives in the Detroit area, and she talked about her experience being colored in South Africa. It's a thing, and it's. I mean, there are neighborhoods like that for generations that are known as being mélange or colored neighborhoods, and additionally, but in terms of like groups to connect with and like agencies and personnel. I have yet to do that specifically. I'm getting closer to that, and there's been a couple of hidden misses, but there's one group called Colored Mentality that is active on Facebook and on YouTube, but we're still working on connecting. So, and then you saw the film Hafu, am I right?
No, I actually haven't watched it.
You haven't seen that yet? Wow. Okay, interesting. But you've heard about it?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. So do you know Megumi Nishikura?
Yeah, I've met her. I've met her before.
She did. I mean, I probably heard about it from one of your episodes.
Yeah, we did a interview once.
Right. Okay, that's right. That's probably where I heard about it a number of years ago. So actually, one of the guys who's featured in that, one of the brothers who's featured in that, his name is Edward, I think is his name.
Yeah, Edward Sugimoto or something.
Yeah. I think he was on your program too, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
So he's an alumnus of Georgetown.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was there. Interestingly enough, his freshman year was my last year in law school. So we were like on the campus at the same time. I get to talk with him ever in life directly, but I found that interesting. But you're aware that he starts his community in Japan, but even then I'm having difficulty like connecting with that community, and like a lot of the links that are given for his organization or for his group are kind of dated, and it's been a number of years since updates. So this has been some of the challenges, and there have been like a lot of people who've done mixed stuff before, but who have kind of like retired and gone to like conventional living, and additionally, so that's one of the reasons why for myself I offer myself as a a continuum of this type of activism, and linking linking the past generations with the continuing generations. Have you ever seen any of these magazines?
Yeah, I heard of Maven, but I've never actually held a copy in my hand.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they've made it to Canada.
Okay. Yeah. So
How did you get it?
haha. So it's a funny story. My brother was a student at Florida A&M, and he had a friend who was a photographer, and the photographer friend had done just a shoot for a Maven, and told my brother about it. Say, hey, you're mixed. You probably would like this magazine. And so he's like, oh yeah, check it out. And then my brother told me about it. So that was, again, this issue came out. I don't know if it has a date on it. It just says issue 8, but it came out like 18 years ago. So I found out about it like right when it came out. And then I got I got pretty much almost all the issues. There were only like, I guess, 8 or 9 issues made, but this is another one of them. But actually, I have family in Seattle where it was based, and I actually went to visit the offices. And that's how I got connected with Amanda. If you know.
Oh, you went to the office too. That's pretty cool.
But the office wasn't there. How about that? So it was like right when it went on hiatus, and they were like downsizing.
Oh shoot.
And I was there with my mother, standing outside the offices in our car, waiting for it to open up or anything, but it didn't happen. And so found out later that they were downsizing, and like they had a lot of the staff were let go, and a lot of the interns kind of were working off the thing or whatever. But anyways, I connected with Amanda at one of the critical mixed race studies conferences later on, and so she's kind of like, from what I understand, she's still the president, and she's still kind of like holding the reins, but in an increasingly modest way. So, but that's my point is, like, there's a lot of there was a lot of work that went into this, and I don't know. I don't know if you ever saw. Let's see. Aha. I'm gonna spill all my CDs here, but this joint.
Chasing Daybreak. No, I never heard about it.
So Maven did a.
Or maybe.
Maven did a documentary where they had 5 mixed people go on a road trip. I don't know if you can hear me. There's a helicopter above.
Yeah, actually, wait. I remember hearing about that. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's about the time when I actually learned about Maven.
Okay.
Yeah. It must have been like, I must have been just finishing high school or uni. I must have been in uni or something.
Yeah. This came out. It has 2006 is the date on it coming out, but I think it was actually made a couple years before that.
Right, they would have filmed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is I only got that like a couple years ago, maybe a year or two ago. Amanda mailed it to me, but it's a nice film, and it gives like insight on like the grassroots organizing. But a lot of work went into that, and Matt Kelly, who's the one who was the founder of all that. I mean, like, I don't know if he got burnt out, but he kind of like he invested a lot, and then he kind of went into his journalism career and moved to Korea. Maybe like a year or two after this was made. But the website's still up. The Mixed Heritage Center is still available. I think spotty sometimes in its availability, but for groups like Critical Mixed Race Studies and other groups that get started, like it's beneficial to like connect with the previous works that are done, to know what is done, to learn like the wisdom that comes from that experience. And to see what the needs are today and how to best do that. So there are cats like myself that provide that continuum, even to things like the HAPA Issues Forum and the American Mixed Ethnicity Association, and additionally that the organizations that have kind of gone defunct or on hiatus. There's still institutional knowledge that comes with that. And then, like in England, there are places like People in Harmony. There's Intermix. There's Mixed, and so there are groups that are going strong in a number of different ways. The brother Bradley Lincoln, who started Mixed like 2 decades ago, he started a hair care product line for mixed people, and so that's where his emphasis is these days. But he's got a lot of knowledge about how to organize and how to connect with youth, and how to do programming and additionally. And so there's just a lot out there, but it takes some doing and some knowledge how to connect with it and how to build from it. So in the meanwhile, I try to give what I can to be a facilitator and like the glue or the connection that brings people together and builds further. So, and then cats like you that do the 100% mix show. In addition,
I'm done it in 4 years.
I know, but it's still there, yo, and it still comes up on search results. And so for people who are completely new, because I mean, what I've learned is like the YouTube audience is very young and kind of adolescent age, and so 4 or 5 years ago weren't looking at YouTube too tough,
right.
And so that it's like you have a huge library that you continue to offer, even though the algorithms might not highlight it as much as whatever else. It's still very relevant information. It's relevant experience and insight and voices. And it's a lot of it, yo. You did a formidable collection, so it's a matter of connecting that with what's going on today. For example, the sister Casey Budd, who you you did an interview with her. She's still going strong, but she went to a conference in Minnesota a month or two ago, and she had a bad experience. She was like, yo, people are just complaining, and like it was like a gripe fest, and like looking at like at being mixed as like a victim type of situation. And there's a certain amount of legitimacy within that perspective and experience, but at the same time, we've got to evolve past that dialogue, or past that what's it that whatever
identity,
that convo, yeah, and build upon it and say like, okay, what our needs are, what are the affirmations, what's the positive, what are our strengths, and how do we build from that. And so Casey mentioned in one of her vlogs that she's done with like being mixed because she doesn't want to. She got frustrated with hearing that experience from people who were basically complaining and not like speaking constructively. So she has experience, but she might not know like all the other people who are doing things. She hasn't been to one of the critical mixed race studies joints or whatever.
Right.
So
totally different vibe.
So she's got an audience that's current, and she has a voice that's being heard at this moment, but not necessarily. Okay. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, my screen recorder just shut off. So
no, I still see you.
Yeah, but I was recording the joint on my. It's okay.
Oh.
It's all right. I'm recording it also on this joint.
Okay.
So I told you it's bootleg, yo. So anyway, because that's the nature we endure. It's called Gambaru. So anyways, she's unaware, presumably, of like people who are being increasingly constructive, and who are building, and additionally, because that conference that she went to, I think it was just the first, or not the first, but the second time that it was being convened. And to be honest, actually, the only person I know that I recognize, actually there are two people that I recognize who are on there, are Athena, who you know, who's been to a previous one of those conferences, and then Sharon Chang, I think is her name. Do you know who she is?
Did she do Swirl?
No, that's Jen Chow.
Oh right, yeah.
She did. Sharon Chang wrote the book Multiracial Child, I think it's called.
Okay.
But she's based out of, I think, Seattle. She's been to the critical mixed race study. She's actually done a lot of stuff. But she's an author and a speaker and stuff like that. But I think she attended one of the previous conferences. But other than that, like all the organizers, and additionally, I think they were local to Minneapolis, and didn't have connections with a lot of the other standbys. So that's, again, there's one of the things that's needed in our Menloge diaspora is institutional infrastructure, and there are a lot of institutions that are building autonomously, and it's beneficial for there to be a better connectivity so that again there's that shared insight, that shared wisdom, shared resources, and additionally to support each of our work and our collective work as well. So, and then Casey's voice has, I mean, she has a modest subscriber number, but it at least it at least gives additional um, messaging for or and information to the community accordingly. So um, there's another brother called Cedric who's in Korea, who talks about being mixed Korean. And again, he doesn't seem to be aware of like what's going on in terms of mixed organizations. He speaks specifically about his Korean experience. He's living in Korea at this moment, and he talks with other mixed Koreans in Korea. But I get to hear him talk about anything of like the organizations that are happening. So again, it's that connectivity. So that's some of the stuff that I'm working on with what I have available to work on.
That's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
I know, and I'm kind of just like spewing information at this point, just for it to absorb and to share for what benefit if it serves. So I'm interested in hearing what you think about the cafe joint. What you're like, given what I described to you about like the conditions about where we are at the moment, bootleg and just doing it at the moment. What your suggestions are on how to proceed in a best way. And to be honest, like as you may well know, like very often I need an actuality check because I have ideas and I have like knowledge and wisdom and this and the other, but in many ways I'm out of touch with what people are experiencing these days and additionally. And so even if I have the most fantastic, awesome ideas and everything, it means it's only as beneficial as it can connect and relate with where others are at this moment. So, and how we present it, and additionally, is a significant influence in how it's received by others. So, it's helpful to receive from brothers like you some suggestions and insight of how to share that, of how to present it, and additionally, that in a way that's increasingly receptive to other individuals.
Right. Well, to me, just like I've told you before, I can't see it happening because of just the nature of social media now and where people are at. It's just not a, and I know it's maybe the demographics are changing so quickly that it's becoming less of a isolating experience where you really would go find people online and make friends and keep that going. Nowadays, there's mixed people everywhere, so people say this and that online, and then they get their followers, but it's not like it used to be where it's like I really have no one around, so I'm going to join this forum and this group, and I need this.
Okay.
Nowadays, it's changed, and you see on TV and movies, there's always mixed characters now. So I just don't see for the younger groups that they're going to be as into it as we were at that age, and then the people who have grown up now, and people have families and crazy stuff going on, aging parents, and I just don't see it like that. The times have changed, and that I think that time that existed for a while, in when Maven was around and Eurasian Nation was very active. So
yeah,
unfortunately, that's my take on it.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
I mean, I'm like it's like today, like this meeting here, or this little chat. I mean, I'm probably the most likely person to take part in one of those cafes, but even it's not something I would probably prioritize, or I just don't see the 15-year-olds being like, what, instead of playing whatever game on my phone or hanging out with the other 15-year-olds, I'm just gonna listen to these old dudes talk to each other, right?
Yeah.
I just don't see it. So
yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, and again, that's the actuality check that is needed, uh, and I believe there's a lot of truth to that, and a lot of legitimacy within what you communicate. That being said, I will also share in response that I think I say yes and no, because what you describe in terms of like the waning interest of Mélanger, to be honest, I experienced that 10, 15 years ago, and I've got you by maybe about a decade. So I've experienced when I was your, and I don't mean when I was your age, but when I was in my 30s, like I experienced that first like that like lull, or that like actually I was in my late 20s, early 30s when I experienced that like deflation. And and it wasn't necessarily about being mixed, because I had yet to like build up there was a lot of being mixed that was not yet come to fruition at that point. It was just basically being multicultural. It was a multicultural like deflation. And what I've observed is this: like when we're young, particularly at university age, we are very available to be open and to like new experiences, new people, new types of things, this, that, and the other. And the further we age in life, the further we mature, the further responsibilities that we get, and the further we tend to be entrenched within our own community, and tending to the needs and demands within our own community. And what I found is that people my age, back when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, who were multicultural tough when I was in, particularly in law school. When I was in undergrad, it was pretty much all people of African ancestry. So much of my multiculti was in law school. Like people were like you said, had kids, were having families, worried about jobs, this, that, and the other. Very pragmatic, immediate things. And the thing is, being mixed was like, or being multicultural was like an extracurricular thing, and it wasn't putting bread on the table. It was like the nice thing to do that made us feel nice. And so I think Mélanger in many ways is like that, particularly because there have yet to be like Mélanger corporations or Mélanger political action committees and things like that. And so the way people are sustaining oneself is very much for a homogenous kind of in a homogenous context. And so when we get older, just a matter of fact of life is that we become increasingly pragmatic. We become increasingly practical. And at the moment, being Mélanger isn't the most practical of things. It's existential and it's necessary and it's significant, but again, it's not putting a lot of jobs in, and it's not giving a lot of jobs to people, this, that, and the other. So again, like you say, people as we mature, as we age, we have to answer those things, particularly when we have responsibilities, children, and additionally. So me being single, still looking for a wifey, and being without children at the moment, I have the availability to kind of provide that intergenerational bridge, and additionally. But I think also that observation that you share is also generational specific, because there are young people who are in that zone. And yes, I think there's an increasingly accepted there's an increasing acceptance for multiculturalism within the conventional society, that lends itself to being increasingly comfortable as being mixed, but it still doesn't speak directly and affirmatively to the experience of being mixed. I'm still working with the local university of getting a mixed student organization together, and actually we have a discussion group meeting mañana about that as well. So the need is still there, the interest is still there, and when I talk with young people, the young people are on it. I was at the university today and handing out flyers for the discussion group, and I met a brother who was well interested, who never even heard about had never talked about being mixed before. I asked him, have you ever had a conversation about being mixed? He's like, nah. So and I met a young sister who just graduated from the university, again, who asks me when is the discussion group and what can be done. So there is an interest amongst the young people, and it's just a matter of knowing how to bridge that conversation, or broach that conversation, because I got these gray beards and I can do the fancy talking, this, that, and the other, but still I'm somebody called me a elderly, or the category like people over 40 elderly. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
So, and I know how I looked at 40-year-olds or whatever when I was in my 20s, and additionally, so there is that gap. So it is helpful to have kind of like that bridge accordingly.
But particularly for people who've been doing this for years, and you have demonstrated a strong commitment just by how much you've invested in the past years in the work that you've provided and the gifts that you've shared. And so, and another brother that comes to mind is Shane Evans, the artist out of
Yeah.
KC. And again, he's my age, and he has a daughter who's mixed herself. And well, him being his daughter, obviously, but even further, he was an interracial. That doesn't bring into that melange tangle of like what actually is, anyways. But my point is that he's directly connected with the next generation and has a vested interest in the needs of the next generation. Sharon Chang, the sister that I mentioned, who writes the book, she writes that book particularly because her son is mixed, and obviously with her being mixed, and so she wants to build the library and the educational curriculum that supports children like her son. And so there are people who are speaking to that intergenerational need. This is just one of the things I can do at the moment to help kind of the continuity. The Critical Mixed Race Studies Conference is probably one of the biggest things that's happening at the moment in terms of melange. Hapapalooza even is big, comparatively speaking, just because there's an absence of anything else happening. And so the consideration is, at the very least, just keeping the dialogue going, keeping the discussion going. And through that discussion, when ideas emerge, when ventures emerge, to like share recommendations, share suggestions, make connections, share recommendations to people to connect with, and how to like get the resources necessary to do that. So, but I mean, communication plays such a critical role in any kind of human endeavor, and so for melange people, the consideration is having a constant form or some kind of constancy of communication. And a conference is very helpful in doing that. But again, if a conference is only organized once every 2 years or whatever, then the continuity in the intermittent period is wanting. And so consideration is having something to fill in that gap or fill in that void. And so I'm unaware if there being anything else that speaks to that intentionally. So that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm working to offer.
Anyway, like I said, that's what I see, or how I perceive things. My analysis of the situation. But if you see it another way and you have the experiences, so yeah, why not go for it? Why not try to organize and get some more people together? But just from my experience and what people have told me from the university, how much trouble it was keeping the club going after Facebook, and got really big. And that's already like 50, must be like 12 years ago. So I just personally, it's like it's not something that I would tackle myself. Yeah. And just having those experiences. So, but if you see differently, like, go for it, man. It'd be great to see it. If you did it, man, it'd be amazing. Okay. But personally, I guess I'm just doing other stuff now and just trying to make money. It's like everyone else.
Hey.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I actually got to get going.
Yeah. I appreciate you flowing through. One other question I'll ask you is your recommendation or your suggestion of how to make it increasingly appealing for people our age, perhaps for activists who've been doing it like yourself, but who are less interested or less vested in it at the moment. How to make it increasingly appealing and accessible and interesting to people in our age bracket, but then also to younger people, like you mentioned, even the 15-year-old. What might be some tips on how to structure it or offer it to make it increasingly appealing? Are you talking? I can't hear anything.
Oh, my mic just got muted by accident.
Right.
I said if I knew, I'd probably still be doing the YouTube channel or have a lot of money on some sort of social media platform. I don't know. I don't have the answer to how to make it more appealing. I mean, there's the obvious advertising answers, but beyond that, I don't know. Like, throw money at it. Beautiful people, those always seem to get attention, but real long-lasting interest and connection. I guess start small and offer it and see what happens. I guess that's the only. I can't really say for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you taking the making the effort to connect on the line today. So, and I temper my expectations for future participation accordingly. But like I said, I'm planning to do this Monday through Thursdays, 2 p.m. I plan to invite additional people, and maybe amidst me getting some additional momentum, I might send you a note. You're welcome to contend whenever if you want to pop in, but I might, amidst God willing, getting additional amount of success and participation, like send you like a link maybe to like a previous example where you see additional people that might provide additional encouragement for flowing through again.
Yeah, if you have one of these with more people, some of the people we mentioned, let me know.
Yeah, sounds well. Well, I appreciate it, bro.
All right, Peter, well, it's nice chatting with you, and yeah, let me know if you have some of our friends. Reach out to some of our friends.
Yeah. All right, I appreciate that.
Okay.
All right.
See you, Peter.
Love and peace. So that's going to be the conclusion for this session. Over an hour. We're going to leave it at that. One love and peace. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, zaijen, adios, tehe chakariza, sempre na asbuwo, kele ufred. One love and peace. All right. I just listened to that, and to call that a convo is somewhat of a stretch. I think that's almost like not necessarily like a therapy session, but it's one brother being very patient and listening, and another brother being very enthusiastic in sharing information. So somewhat imbalanced. I did a lot of talking in that joint. However, that being said, I think there's actually a lot of beneficial information that I share. It also would be beneficial to have like some type of context of what that conversation was. So about half a year ago, I began a series of supposed to be like a meetup type of forum or session for people just to like talk about being mixed and having that convo in general. But for a number of reasons, some of which I articulate in the joint here, but in additional reasons, I abstain from even like promoting it or even like communicating it too tough. So because I was precluded and continue to be precluded from like fully investing in what the intentionality was. So because of that, very few people get involved in the convo, as I mentioned. So anyways, it actually still continues. The whole Cafe Mélanger, that's what that is. That was the first session. It actually starts on the first day of the Holy Earth calendar that we work with. So the 11th of September is actually the specific date in the Gregorian calendar. But the idea, like I mentioned before, is to have like a forum where people can just talk, meet people from the different experiences of Mélanger, Hafu, Métis, Mestizo, Creole, all that. Being able to like talk and build and strengthen relationships and cooperation accordingly. And still working on that, continue to work on that. And actually,
some of the stuff that we're working on at the moment is small steps, tangible steps, further in that interest, in that manner. So for that first session, like I said, I only invited one person, which was Philippe himself, and before the actual session, let me slow up a little bit, and it's a little bit late. The session actually started before what I share in this convo, meaning that on the hour that it was scheduled to begin, I just start like giving a little bit of like a spiel about information, particularly information based upon a global census of mélanger, based upon statistical information provided from the United Nations Statistics Division, about nations reporting populations of mixed ethnic heritage. And out of the some nearly 200 United Nations members, only about 40 actually provide information about mixed heritage or mixed ethnicity populations in their respective nations. So less than 50%, actually even less than 25% of 25% of the United Nations members even provide information about having mixed heritage people living in the nation, respectively. And then amidst that, for those that do report having such population and keep those type of statistics, there are over 100 million people on Earth that identify as being mixed heritage, and with that type of number, there has yet to be, to our general knowledge, ours being the Mélanger Ethos Institute, there has yet to be a worldwide and international agency that advocates for the mixed ethnic heritage experience. And there has yet to be an agency in the United Nations system or with consultative status with the United Nations system, specifically for the interests and the well-being of people who are of mixed heritage. And that is actually, that's for a diaspora, for a population group of over 100 million people. That seems rather concerning. But even further, considering the fact that the United Nations is exactly predicated upon international cooperation. And guess what happens when people cooperate internationally? They get married, they have children. So it's like that's part of the intrinsic nature of the United Nations itself. So for the United Nations to yet have an agency that recognizes officially and that supports this experience, again, that's concerning. So that's one of the things that we work on. We work with a number of agencies in the United Nations in terms of just having that conversation and having some type of formal recognition and representation, something similar to the United Nations Indigenous the United Nations Indigenous Peoples Forum, the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. That's what it is. UNPFII, the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, whatever the acronym is right there. Something similar to that for Mélanger Brethren, where there is a forum, there's programming, there's recognition, there's study and research, there's support for additional agencies, NGOs, to build and organize autonomously as well as collectively. And there's a channel of communication that such agencies have to the UN system and the different administrative entities and bodies within the United Nations to provide further information for building, and additionally, particularly for the interest of the United Nations and all people, because that's part of the nature of Mélanger as well. Now, some of the challenges, I'm getting into a bit of spiel. This is supposed to be a wrap-up, but it is what it is. One of the challenges is that like Philip was saying in that conversation, is that the experience of being mixed has different different degrees of significance, and different ways of expressing that significance, depending upon the individual, depending upon the background of the individual, and additionally. And so that's one of the challenges. So that even it's one thing for many mixed people, many mélanger brethren, have difficulty even identifying as such, and simply kind of lay low in the social sphere, and kind of just assimilate within whatever the norm, ethnic norm is. But there are those that do, and there are those that are very courageous in starting up organizations, student groups, community initiatives, and additionally, yet even in those scenarios, oftentimes those initiatives are still rather ethnic specific, meaning that the nature, the premise of the actual student group or initiative or community group is based upon a specific type of mélange, a specific mix, either Hapa or Creole or Mestizo or Métis, and rather than just like the omnilateral experience of being mélange, whatever that mix is. So those are some of like the intrinsic challenges of organizing and building that institutional infrastructure internationally. And that being said, there are people who have an interest. There are people that are doing that. There are organizations and agencies that provide support and communicate an interest, a continuing interest. One, for example, is the Baha'i International Community, which is actually a religious community, one of the newest, quote unquote, newest religions, but also very spread, very, what's the word? Having a very widely established diaspora around the earth. And one of the tenets of the Baha'i faith is the unity of the human family, but also specifically advocating, promoting interethnic marriages and children. So that's one agency, one community that we're in communication with, in terms of strengthening our work with the United Nations and the International Civic Society. But like we were saying in the conversation, it requires having certain immediacy with what people's interests are at this moment, and being able to reach people where people are at the moment with what people consider already significant. One of the things that we identify at this point is storytelling. Going back to what I communicated previously on previous joints, is that as Confucius says, it's wisdom and righteousness. The Buddha says this. Socrates says this. Our ancestors, prophets, and sages say this: wisdom and righteousness. That's the knowledge of self and the discipline of self that strengthens us. And so the wisdom, as I articulated before, are our stories, our ancient old-time stories, as well as our ancient old-time songs and our ancient old-time rituals. And those are things that when we have that knowledge, it's just like nourishing food. It heals us. It strengthens us. It encourages us. It inspires us. And so some of the work that we've been doing through the years is finding those stories across all our different cultures. We've put together some publications independently, meaning we printed it up ourselves and distributed ourselves via email and stuff like that. But we've found collections of stories from different cultures as an introduction to multiculturalism and pluralism, but also as a foundation for being mélanger, and particularly being omnilaterally mélanger, and identifying literally as Earth. And this also coincides with the World Service Authority and the whole premise and the path of world citizenship. So when we talk about relating to people and finding something that resonates with people, storytelling, that's the way of doing it. And also the songs, not the popular songs, like contemporary songs, cool, yeah, that's nice. But also the old songs, because that's the old songs, the traditional songs, the folk songs, that helps to strengthen intergenerational relationships. So it's not just a matter of what's trending, what's current, what's hip, what's popular, but it's what's timeless. And when we look at what's timeless, then it's the elders that appreciate it and that support it in promoting it verbally, but also materially as well. Elders have significant influence in that. Our adults, our adult brethren, our young brethren, as well as our children, our youth. So old songs, and songs are lifting of the spirit. It helps to learn languages that way. And people dance, people enjoy themselves, people like shake it off. And additionally, so that's something that's very beneficial that we have within our repertoire to share. And that resonates with people. And so that's another thing that we've been working on, and we continue to work to make it increasingly economically viable. So that's an additional thing. And then the rituals, meditation, breathing, that's something that's popular, breath work these days, yoga, prayer, meditation, samadhi, rituals, puja. And additionally, I mean, that might sound rather religious and otherwise, but again, these are things that strengthen us, and it's helpful to have a knowledge of it and a knowledge of the benefits that come from it, as it is acceptable within our respective religious disciplines and traditions and practices. So but it's beneficial to include that type of awareness and intentionality within the way that we progress in our multiculturalism, within our Melange experience, and in reaching out towards others. So it's not just a matter of like meeting at the happy hour because we see people of different colors and that makes us feel nice. It's a matter of doing things that are increasingly meaningful and sustaining and enduring. And then we get into the righteousness. That's the ethics. And through the ethics, we have an increased amount of compatibility with each other, but also with respective communities around the earth. So now I'm getting into a little bit of spiel, or further into a spiel. So anyways, that's that conversation that Philip and I have is a part of is like a blip in the aggregate work that is being done in the conversations that are being had. And actually, to be honest, as like isolated or remote as that conversation may be, that actually goes a long way towards towards establishing this podcast and continuing the work. So and even in just establishing this podcast, I find another actually dozens of podcasts of people who are mixed that I only find because in my work in my research for putting this together. So my intention is to reach out to many of these podcasters, I guess would be the term, and send invitations for doing some collaborations, and just even finding out what other people are doing. And some are focusing on other things that are other than prioritized in what we do with the Melange Ethos Institute. However, it's still part of the convent, and it's still part of like the experience. So it's a matter of finding the common ground and optimally building accordingly. So that's what things are. Now this is supposed to be the joint where we solicit contributions to this and the other, and I ain't gonna get too much into that. Still have you to put together a shopping list or a purchase list. We are emerging from one of the intense periods of the yearly calendar. One of the quote unquote it's there are two corridors. How do I put this? There are two periods or two phases in each yearly cycle, each orbit of the Earth around the Soleil. One happens just at this moment, and these are moments, or these are calendar zones, for lack of a better word, at the moment, where there are intense, INTENSE, intense religious and spiritual observations, rituals, holidays, holy days, Easter, Pesach. Pesach is approaching. We have Holy a little while ago as well, but through the period of about a month or two, there's a buildup of just like different communities being very intense in terms of the practice, awareness, consciousness, conjuring up teachings and experiences, commemorations, and additionally. So this is one of those periods in the calendar. And then the next period happens in about 5-6 months from this point as well. And these kind of coincide with the beginning harvest and the beginning planting of crops, and then the harvest, the ending of the harvest. So these are periods where different communities go to the heavenly realm in terms of communication and mindset. So anyways, I say all that because why do I say that? Because when I talk about contributions, we are aligning our methodology of soliciting contributions along these lines as well, with these intense experiences. In addition to a newsletter we began this past year, and it kind of tapers off in recent months, but instead of intending to do it or continuing doing it on a monthly basis, doing it on a biannual basis, twice a year, and coinciding that with the solicitation for contributions. So I might still mention stuff on the podcast at this session, but this is kind of like the notes and like the additional announcements and stuff like that. We're focusing amidst the conditions at the moment, and the challenges that are being experienced. We are focusing on increasingly on immediate local community building, and working with additional groups, including even government, NGOs, and IGOs, for backing and support in these community ventures. And that involves establishing a local community center, and that can be an entire building with multiple facilities. It can be a room where people meet and store things, but doing these in respective identified metropolitan areas around the earth, and building a village, or strengthening actually a village network, and doing a village to village cooperative and exchange of products and services direct, as an alternative to relief funding, and additionally, but just working with directly with villages. So if a village got corn, beans, rice, flour, and additionally that they're able to harvest. Another village might have books, and educational materials, and another village might have know-how about technology, mobile communication, off the grid utilities, and additionally. So it's a matter of identifying what we have, what we bring to the table, what we can offer that other people need, and then how we exchange that directly with each other. Again, optimally. So that's something we've been working on, and we continue to work on that as well. And with the focus on doing some tangible iterations, some tangible exchanges within the near future. One of those includes the establishment of an online platform where we share these stories and songs and rituals, recording these here locally in the Cuyahoga area with our local network here in the Cuyahoga area, and posting it online, and making it available to people who have a membership. Not making it public and available to everybody, but to people who have a membership. Membership basically requiring 1% contribution of one's monthly income, reported on the honor system, and then with that, getting access to the materials that are provided, the uploads on the platform. Again, song stories, and what we're looking at this point is, I said we have a collection of stories from different cultures. So what we're looking at is reaching out to our youth, young adults, and additional brethren from the village here, our extended community here, to narrate, to just read the material that we already have, without having even to memorize the stories or to cultivate a storytelling repertoire, but just to read it. And in reading it, we're basically saying, "Yo, we get you and we got you," meaning that we see you. We here's your culture, here's your stories. We're telling it, and that being a sign of respect. But it's also a sign of solidarity, and be there's a certain mutuality and a mutual benefit that comes in supporting us doing what we're doing, and sharing who you are, and sharing that there's an affirmation of the cultures that are represented in these stories, and that helps to strengthen the additional comprehensive cooperation that we've been working on, that we continue to work on doing. So those are some of the things that we're building at this point. We are working on finding leadership in this, and part of that leadership, the methodology for solidifying that leadership, is through the guidance, the direction of the Guyana Shagoa of the Haudenosaunee, which is the law of the Great Peace of the Iroquois Confederation. And the particular emphasis of this methodology is the establishment of a clan system, and that might sound rather archaic or whatever, or foreign in many people's mindsets, but it's helpful, particularly in the experience of Mélanger mixed heritage, emphasizing family lineage and political organizing predicated upon familial lineage, but even further, matriarchies, and the matriarchs of the clans being the ones that are the decision makers of those who represent the clan in the circle of chiefs, the administrators, who make the decisions about the community. So basically it works like this. And again, the U.S. Constitution is based upon this. But the way it works is that their clans participate and agree to build together. And those clans are the leadership are the matriarchs. The matriarchs are the ones that make the decisions about how the clan interacts with the other clans. And that is done by each matriarch. Each matriarch selecting a chief, a male chief from the clan, to sit in the circle of chiefs, the council of chiefs. And that council of chiefs is the one that makes the executive decisions about what the collective does. And each chief answers to the matriarch that selects that chief to sit in the council. So that's like the leverage, the power structure, the power dynamics. And so that's what we worked on with Mélanger we're sending out a call to matriarchs of all ages and all backgrounds to step forth. And it also involves ethics. There's the ethical premise of the Buddha, the 5 ethical principles that are compatible and supportive of all different religious traditions of the earth. But that's the thing for matriarchs who practice the 5 ethics. selecting the chiefs to be the decision makers to administer the community centers that I mentioned, the local community centers and the cooperative ventures, the village to village cooperation, accordingly. So we have the basics of this established, and we're working on a communique to put that out. So anyways, this is just a continuum of the conversation and the work that is referenced in this session today. And that's what's up. And so in terms of contributions, passing the hat around for today, for this week, we might, phone card might be helpful actually, because I'm not certain how much I got left on the balance to do this mobile, and Wi-Fi is less accessible at this moment. It's spotty, so we have to be mindful of that. We've been within the past couple of weeks, we receive contributions of food, and we're thankful for that. And I'm working on receipts for that. We receive additional supplies. So there's generous support, continual support that we appreciate, and that helps to lay some of the concerns aside so that we can focus on additional work on the task at hand. And at this point, the task at hand is wrapping this joint up because it's late, and this is already past the hour for posting. So this is the addendum to what was already shared a few hours ago to stay on schedule. And there it is. So somewhat of an atypical convo for today. Like I said, it's an archive. It was from a few months ago, but it actually is one of the things that sparks this. In addition to a number of the in-person conversations, unrecorded conversations, or at least unrecorded by myself, that also make the suggestion of doing this podcast. So what I am also recognizing is that there's only so much. There's still a certain awkwardness in putting these things together. There's still the tendency of me being soliloquacious. Is that a word? Soliloquacious. Doing those soliloquies. And people are just kind of sitting there, because I can think about the convo that I had with Bob Roca a few weeks ago, and then I see it again with Philippe today in the convo. So that's a work in progress too. But it's positive, it's constructive, it's beneficial, and it's a done deal. So there it is. One love and peace. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Zaijian. Adios. Te chakris. Es siempre nasa mugo. One love and peace.